Spirit, we thank you for this meeting and we ask for your guidance throughout the process. And we thank you for the comradeship of all those involved. And we thank you for this beautiful day and all that you do for us. And we ask that you help us through this entire lesson to learn as much as we can learn so that we can serve you better. We ask this in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Song, Shahawad?
Yes, please.
If we don't learn from the hardest times in our lives, we will never be able to move past them. If we don't learn the lesson, it's almost certain history will repeat itself in some form. Whenever things don't go to plan, whenever life throws us challenges and hardship, there's always a hidden blessing and always a strong lesson. It may not be our fault. Sometimes things happen that are completely out of our control. But if we detach from the situation and look at it objectively, we might be able to see an area where we could have done better. An area where, if we had done the groundwork, the impact would have been less damaging. Whatever happened, whatever you're going through, use it. Use it to develop yourself. Use it to grow into a stronger human being. Use it to help others who may be going through something equally as challenging. Here are 5 lessons we must learn from the hardest times. Number 1, self-work works. During the hardest times, we really see who has done the work on themselves and who hasn't. Self-work doesn't guarantee negative things won't happen to you, but it ensures your response to those negative events will be far better than those who have not done the work. During difficult moments, it is more important than ever we react from a place of calm and clarity, not from fear or panic. And that is where self-work comes in. Those who have done the daily work in meditation and mindful practices are in a better place to make better decisions. Those who practice daily gratitude are in a better place to resist the surge of negative energy flowing around them. Those who have done the work to learn and develop are far better positioned to make stronger moves in hard times. If you haven't been doing that self-work, now would be a fantastic time to start. Don't brush it off. Don't sweep it under the rug. If you're not in a good place right now and you haven't been doing the work that really matters, ask yourself if you want to continue living this way. Do you want to continue feeling these feelings throughout your life? What about the next time something happens? Do you want to be in a stronger position mentally and emotionally? If so, commit to start that daily practice and commit to it today. Write down your no matter what practices. No matter what, each and every morning I will practice gratitude, meditation, reading something positive, all the things that you know will make you a better, stronger, and happier human being. Write it down now and promise yourself you will commit to it so you never feel low, no matter the season, ever again. Number 2, some things and some people just aren't that important. Hard times can be a blessing in so many ways. One of those is noticing the things that we give too much space in our minds and emotions that were never really that important. We notice those who are always there, those who really care, and perhaps some who do not. We notice those who make time for you no matter what, and those who do not. Take a moment in silence to ask yourself, what has been consuming too much of my energy that really isn't that important? Maybe it's time to make some changes to reduce or eliminate those things for a better quality of life. Number 3, some things and some people are that important. And we must show that we know this and appreciate this. In contrast to the previous point, hard times can really jolt us into understanding what and who we really care about. Who do we turn to in hard times? Who do we jump to protect? Who would we do anything for no matter what storms are raging? Who would do anything for us? What passions come out? What makes us better and stronger in these times? What makes us feel better no matter what is going on? These things matter. Get quiet for a moment and ask yourself those questions. Trust the answers. Maybe you need to tell those people they are important to you, that you are thankful for them. Maybe you need to make some changes in your life to lock in those things that are important, replacing some of the things that are not. Number 4, things must change. This is a big one because during the hardest times, we all know that things must change. But most people are not willing to make those changes. Poor habits, fear, and conditioning keeps us locked into the prison of the past, which only guarantees more of the same in the future. Nothing will change long term unless you change everything that needs changing. Expecting your circumstances to change when you don't is insanity. Commit to the self-growth changes you can make to create the life you must have. Commit to it now and commit to it as a daily practice. It has to be your new identity. The old you must die for the new you to be born. Number 5, this too shall pass. It's hard when you're going through stressful, life-altering moments to hear this. But if you think back over your life and the lives of everyone you know that everything passes. Good times don't last forever, and neither do hard times. Trust that this moment will pass. Know that it will. And start doing the inner work now so that no moment in time can alter your state. Do that work on you. So no moment in time, no event, no circumstance can change how you feel about your life. Keep going, and keep going with optimism and faith in your heart. Many blessings.
All yours, Shahoan.
All right, so those were some powerful statements.
That was a song.
Yeah, that was the song for today. I changed it up because I know each and every one of us are having difficulties at this time because of the type of energy that's coming through, and also because of the way people are reacting in their emotional self. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is going around and blaming and putting blame on things for what is happening in your life, instead of actually looking at it and saying, what can I do to change this? Because when we blame another person or blame it on anything, we're actually not addressing it, which is going to cause that pattern, and it will become a pattern to come back around in your life until you realize that it is your choice in your own emotional and mental self to change that so that you don't blame it on something else. Like it happened because of this. We cannot change some things, we cannot change that happened to us, It's just how we respond to it. And we all do blaming. We blame other people for saying stuff to us that hurt our feelings. Well, did they really hurt your feelings, or did you choose to be hurt because of what they said? There's a big difference. You know, people do feel, you know, say stuff that will hurt your feelings, but that's the way the other person feels about it. Do you actually feel that? Do you believe that within yourself? Or are you taking ownership of how another person feels? And if you take that ownership, guess what? You're going to feel like that. And not only is it going to make you feel bad, but it's going to make you feel guilty. It's going to make you get angry. It's going to open up all these scenarios of emotions that are not even your emotions to begin with. It was something that somebody said that you chose to agree with and take ownership of. So it's very important to start realizing that the key to everything in your emotional state, and I tell, this is the root where you can pull it out of yourself, is ownership. Do not take ownership of it unless you just really want to beat yourself up. And sometimes we like to beat ourselves up, you know, and I will tell you the reason why we do that is because between the age of 1 year old and 7, we were conditioned through our self-esteem that we weren't worthy enough. And that's where that guilt comes from. And the punishment of punishing yourself when others don't think as highly about you as you feel about yourself. And that's something to really be to work strongly on with inside yourself, because we're all beautiful creatures of God. And each one of us came from God. Each one of us has the light of God in us. It's how we choose to use that light. Is how we choose to show people who we are. Does it mean we won't get mad? Does it mean we won't have those emotions? Well, yes, we'll have those emotions because we're human. We're in a human body. But it's actually how you choose to respond to it is what's going to get you and keep you on a spiritual pathway. And it's not an easy task. Because like I said, it's a pattern. And we've been taught this pattern since we were a kid. So a lot of us are having to go back and break all these patterns and cycles. And that's part of clearing up your, whatever, if people want to call it karma or whatever, we're cleaning it up so that it doesn't continue to go forward into the next person's children's life. Because it will. If you don't clean it up, your kids will have to clean it up. That's how you can see the pattern very good in drugs and alcohol. That's why drugs and alcohol follow in the path line of your family, because it is a energy pattern that gets implicated into your family life. And if one person doesn't address it and break it, then it goes to the next one down the line and they have to experience the same thing. It's kind of hard for some people to believe that and understand it until you actually start seeing the pattern itself within your family. And it can be more patterns than just alcohol and drugs. I'll tell you one of mine that's in my family that I've been and have been trying to break for a long time is this started on my mother's side. It's not on my father's side, because you get both. You get your father's side of the family stuff and you get your mother's side. So you have to decide which side it came from, because it could come from both too. But this one came from my mother's side, and somewhere in her family DNA, the women of the family, for some reason, were not able to keep the children. So in each lifetime, the children were sent somewhere else to be raised. And that pattern has been in my family for like 6 generations or more. And I have tried really hard to break that pattern, but I also see that pattern still trying to go forth in my daughter's life. And she's quite aware of it too, which scares her half to death, you know, because she's worried that she's not going to be able to break it, and you know that pattern's going to run in her family. And so we're having to work through fear, you know, and all the emotions that come with it, on top of just trying to stay balanced and be in a positive attitude towards everything else that is happening at the same time in a daytime. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is things can hit you when this energy starts hitting you. It doesn't hit you when you're at your best. It usually piles on you when you're at your lowest of your lowest, to knock you down and keep you knocked down. And so you just got to try to stay positive and understand that it is a cycle and a pattern, and that the cycle pattern runs off of the energy, so it can only run for a short period of time. And if you can hang on to that knowledge that it's going to pass, and stay in a positive frame of mind, and try to do as much positive as you can, you'll get through it. But it's not going to be easy. It's not an easy task when you're being challenged like that, but you can get past it. And you will also know that when you're doing it, if you're aware enough, you'll know that you're breaking these cycle patterns that had came from your family's DNA line. But the biggest thing you got to take out of it is the blaming. Okay, because you can't blame your mother, you cannot blame your aunt, you can't blame, you know, your DNA line, because this wasn't broken off by somebody else. You have to just recognize it and say, well, I have to break it off of this for me, for myself, and understand that that's what you're doing. Now I use that the children thing, because that, like I said, that runs very strongly in my life. But there's a lot of other things that run in people's lives, like alcoholism, drugs, divorces. It can be a number of many things. So I want y'all to look closely at your life and see if you can see the patterns that have run through your family. You know, from maybe it could be communication. There wasn't no communication in the family unit, and that lesson might have fell on you to fix, you know, to correct that pattern. But you can do it. And that's what I want to really, you know, talk about today. It can be done, because we have to realize we are not the victims. That's not the reason why this is happening to us. But you can become a victim if you allow this stuff to get you down and make you feel guilty and make you feel like you're not worth a flip, and why does this keep happening to me? All of this stuff, that's your thoughts. So you have to change that. You have to get out of that ownership of owning all of that. Because you have to look at who you are at this moment, at this time. And what are you at this moment, at this time? You are God's child. You got up this morning and you breathed in the breath of life. The sun was shining. So he gave you a beautiful day. So did you have gratitude for all of that? Did you put gratitude in your life this morning? Did you give thanks for being able to just wake up? Or did you wake up going, oh, I don't feel good today. Oh my goodness, it's raining, it's storming outside. It's going to be a yucky day. Well, how did you start your day off this morning? Because it makes a big difference when you started off looking at it with gratitude and positive. Yeah, I'll give you an example. Yesterday I was very sick. And it's because of my eyes. I've been having really bad headaches because there's so much light coming into my new eye. And then we were having storms, so every part of my body ached yesterday. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so, of course, as a human being, you're going to fall into that. That pattern of going, oh, I just feel yucky today. I mean, because we're human, we're going to do that. But the minute that you recognize that you're doing that, you need to change it immediately into something positive so that you can be pulled out of it a lot quicker than just laying in it and wallowing in it. Because yesterday I wallowed. I was a victim, boy. And when you own that, when you own those emotions, I really truly believe that it makes those emotions that much harder for you to get through because you feel every bit of it. Because you've owned those feelings. And until you can decide, I'm not going to be like this. Yes, I hurt, but I'm going to get through this. You're going to continue to hurt. You're going to continue to play the victim. So I woke up this morning, like I said, and my eye is still bothering me. And look, I recognize it. That's why I said, look, I'm wearing my sunglasses today because my eyes are bothering me. But I'm not going to allow my eyes I'm not going to allow myself to stay in that emotion that my eyes are bothering me, if that makes any sense to y'all. Yes, my eyes are bothering me, but guess what? I've got my shades on and they're taking care of that, and I'm going to go on and I'm going to put a smile on my face, and I'm going to be the authentic person that I am, and know that this thing with my eyes will pass, because it will pass. It's just something new coming in right now that I'm having to adjust to, and that's kind of like what we all have to do every day, because we have all these energies coming in. Some are new, some are old, but it's really, how are you adjusting to it? Are you taking ownership of it, or are you accepting it and letting it flow through you properly? Because there's a big difference. If you take ownership, you're going to own it and you're going to feel it the whole day. If you let it go through you, it's going to pass through you, And it might be with you the whole day, but you're not, if you cannot take ownership of it, it's not gonna bother you as bad as when you take ownership of it. And that ownership also comes with blame. That's why that's why I said we're talking about blame. Because yeah, all day yesterday I blamed my eyes for not feeling good. That's why I don't feel good. Well, no, that's not the reason why I didn't feel good. The reason I didn't feel good is because I owned that emotion. And so I didn't feel good all day yesterday. And guess when I started feeling better? About 9 o'clock last night, when I realized that all day long I had stayed in ownership of how I was feeling. And I had blamed my eyes, and I had blamed my arms for hurting. And because I blamed my arms for hurting, I had a really miserable day yesterday because I couldn't do nothing because I was in so much pain. Well, I chose that. I chose to be like that. And I woke up this morning and guess what? It was still lingering around. It was waiting for me to choose again today if I was going to be like that. Well, today I chose not to be like that. and it comes in cycles and patterns, and you've got to, not the you thing, but you've got to realize that it becomes a pattern when you start taking the ownership of it. So it will come to you every day until you decide you're not going to feel like that anymore. And you don't have to feel like that. We're in a human body, so we're going to hurt. Our body is going to hurt. We're going to be sick some days, but there's a different way of looking at being sick. You can own it, or you can just say, yes, this is happening to me today, but I'm going to do the best I can to stay in a positive manner. And then you make your choices of what is going to be good for you that day because of what is taking place in your emotional self. And when you can actually realize that you're in a place like that, you'll be able to see your emotional self a lot better so that you can make better choices where you don't end up like I did yesterday. And the more you do that, the shorter those lessons, and I'll call them lessons because they are for your own self, become shorter. Like mine lasted all day. I played the victim. I was a good little victim, yesterday until 9 o'clock when I decided I wasn't going to be the victim anymore. But the sooner you can realize and be aware, the shorter these times will be for you. Because each time you become aware that you're in your emotional state and you're choosing to feel like this, the shorter those episodes will happen to you until you actually break that cycle. You have to understand it is an energy cycle that comes through you, and it's always there. Okay, but when you break it, you'll be in awareness that it is a cycle pattern, and you'll be able to see it when it's coming. Just like you see somebody like, let's just use this as an example, that you have company coming to your house, and the person that's coming is very negative, and you really don't want to have to spend time with that person, but there's no way to get around it. How are you going to choose to handle that with inside yourself? Because there is a choice that you can make. And so for me, this is how I would deal with it, is I would choose to do my best to bring that person's vibration up into a positive way by doing affirmations of positivity towards that person, depending on whatever they were talking about. because sometimes you can't get away from people like that. You just have to experience and go through that experience with them. But the biggest thing you have to be aware of is not to get into an agreement with them when they are speaking those kind of things out of their mouth, because if you agree with them, then you have put ownership on it, and before you realize it, you will feel the same way that other person has felt. And then when they leave, you go, why am I feeling like this? And you'll realize that you took ownership because you agreed with how they were feeling. Just because somebody else is feeling a certain way does not mean that you have to tell them that you agree with how they feel. That's how they feel. You know, you can address it in a proper manner, even where it doesn't hurt the other person, and say, well, everybody has a right to their feelings, but it's okay to be positive about it and say, I choose to look on it with gratitude and be positive that this too will pass. And you can say, and I hope one day that you will learn that you don't have to, keep reliving this, because people like to relive stuff. That's a part of playing the victim. And that's a pattern that has been ingrained into us. We've had that pattern in us for quite a long time. So you just have to learn to choose. What do you want to be? Do you remember when you were a kid, when you were in school and the teachers asked you, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you'd have kids say, well, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a police officer, I want to be a fireman. That's what you have to ask yourself every day. What do you want to be? When you get up in the morning, ask yourself, what do you want to be? And start creating that person, because you are that person. You just got to bring that person into your consciousness. For me, I want to be my authentic self. So every morning I get up and I say hello to my authentic self. Well, guess what? Yesterday, I don't know where my authentic self was. It had disappeared. And the victim had showed up. And that will happen, like I said, because we're human. So your own self has to become aware when you're playing the victim, or if you're in your authentic self, or whatever, whatever you choose to be with inside yourself. You need to ask yourself every day, are you with me today? What can I do for you to make it better for you today? Well, put a smile on your face. Know everything's going to be okay. Because this energy that's hitting us doesn't stay forever. It's just passing through. And when you realize that it's energy, and this is so important, and that your emotions are grabbing a hold of the energy that is passing through, so that you can recognize it, and you're either recognizing it as pain, suffering, happiness, because it's energy, then you at that time will be able to choose which way you're going to, which energy pattern are you going to hop onto. Are you going to hop on the victim energy that's coming through? Because we got a lot of that coming through right now, because everywhere, when you walk outside and you go to the grocery store, we get hit with everybody's emotions. Now, empaths feel it a lot. But if you're not an empath, you might not recognize it. But everybody's thoughts, especially the negative ones, when you walk into a store, you will sometimes be able to feel it. If it feels heavy in that store, That's from the people's emotions. And you're walking right through all of that every day. That's why it's so important to keep your auric field clean. That's why a lot of Native Americans smudge their auric field is we're quite aware that that stuff and Leo calls it the tar. And I like that, TAR, because it's the thought, action, and reaction that we're actually feeling from everybody when we're walking around all day long. So, and it's getting trapped in your energy field. So be aware the way to release that off your energy field is to clear your energy field. And there's many different ways you can clear your energy field, and that's with sage. You can do it by doing baths, we put prayers in your bath water. You can do it with Palo Santo stick. You can do it with prayers. You can do it with a selenite wand. But there's many ways that you can clean your auric field. And the more that you feel weighted down from other people's energy in your auric field, then you need to do that. Because guess what? If you do not clean your auric field, that stuff gets stuck on you so hard that eventually it pushes into your body. And that can and will create sickness in your body. Because it can't go nowhere else if you're not taking it off of you. It can only go into you. And then once you get sick, you're going to have to clear it all off through the process of it coming out of your body back into your auric field so that you can release it. And I wasn't even going to talk about this, but undoubtedly Spirit wants me to talk about it because we're getting into that. But when you have surgery, or you go in the hospital and you have surgery and they cut you open, they cut a hole in your auric field. Okay, and if you don't seal up that hole, then you're walking around with a hole in your auric field, and more stuff will come into your auric field through that hole until you get it sealed up properly. And you'll also feel very tired because you have a hole in your auric field, so your energy is leaking out of that hole until you get it sealed up. So it's very important that when you go to the doctors and you go have any type of surgery, and I'm talking about my eye too, you have to seal that spot up, because if you don't, you've got a big opening in your auric field right there that's going to be taking in a lot more of the tar that you're walking through every day until you seal it up properly. And that was one of my problems, I'll tell y'all, is because I forgot to start sealing up the hole after they did my eye surgery. So I picked up a lot of gooey stuff along the way until that awareness, like I told you, we learn it, but as we learn it, we also forget to do the things that we need to do. Because it has to become a practice with you. You have to really stay on top of yourself to keep yourself healthy. And so I had to backtrack, to start sealing that area up around my eye. So this is just, today's class is just stuff that we all need to know and understand and recognize. But it's mainly because I'm going through with that. I'm sharing it with you today because it's very important to understand that. I had a friend that had knee surgery, and after her knee surgery for like 2 or 3 months, her knee felt good, and then her knee really started hurting her again, and she was like, I just don't think that my knee surgery took. Well, it wasn't that. It was because nobody had showed her how to clear and seal up the hole that it had created in her auric field right there when they did the surgery. And once that got sealed up and I showed her how to do it, she hadn't had a problem with her knee. Other than when it rains, because she has the iron or whatever they put in your knee, and so it aches a little bit when it storms, but that's normal. That's a human thing that's going to take place. But the biggest thing Spirit wants me to talk about is blaming, because every single one of us blames something for the reason of why we feel the way we feel. And Spirit wants us to take the word blame out of it. Take blaming out of it. And when you blame something, Spirit wants you to look at it and ask yourself this one question: what are you running away from? What are you not looking at? Because when you're blaming, it's that pointing that finger that's pointing back at you, but you're not seeing what it is within you that you need to work on. You're pushing it aside to something else. And when you start doing that, you will see where you need to work on yourself. And most of the time when you're blaming somebody else, it's because you're not ready to face the fact that you feel the same way as what has caused you to blame the other person for. And can anybody give me an example of what I just said? And what I mean by that is, can y'all think about something that you blamed somebody for, and then did you recognize that it was actually something that you were afraid of, is why you blamed the other person? Or did you see why it was happening?
I've been guilty of that. And someone I love, and something that my father used to do, breaking those DNA cycles. Stop blaming, stop taking ownership of that stuff that was on him.
So do you recognize it now when you do it?
Yep. I mean, the emotions will still raise their heads once in a while, but I quickly just, no, I don't, that's not me.
Okay, Pam, I saw you raised your hand.
Oh yeah. I have a lifetime of doing that. I've been through a lot of pain, a lot of surgery, a lot of trying to recover from huge, pain issues, and when you're in pain, you just blame everybody for everything.
That is true.
And I mean, there was many times, during my recovery where I said, well, nobody's taking care of me and it's all their fault that I'm like this, I really took on the self-pity party. Oh my gosh, I was terrible, I mean, there were times, and there've been a lot of times in life where I'm getting I go down a rabbit hole that is so deep, I cannot find my way out, and it's that self-pity, that I go down that rabbit hole because of my lack of self-love and my lack of caring about me and self-worth. I don't see myself as worth anything. So I assume that nobody else sees me that way, So that's my own thought pattern. That's not them. It's not that they didn't care. It's that I didn't care about me, and then I felt sorry for myself. I played the victim really well. And I've hurt people. I've hurt people doing that. And it's a big issue that, It's real important to begin to realize that, blaming others for your condition and the way things are is just like, is really, really harmful.
Yeah, so what have you tried to do to change that since you became aware of that?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things I've done, well, this past summer, this summer, I know since I came on with you guys, I've been trying to learn this for some time, but it's hard to get out of the rabbit hole once you're in there. What I have done when I started joining New Self Love, I put my tent up down in the woods, and I went away by myself. Okay, and I began to just sit there and just to think about where I was and to think about me instead of thinking about everybody else. I smudged. I have found it very interesting that at times, like, I have a teacher that I have been listening to, and there are times when I've sat down into that class and it just popped me right out of the hole. You know what I mean? It's just like, whoop, it's gone. And it's done that. That's happened a couple times when I've smudged too. When I've come in and I've totally smudged and prayed and asked Creator, please help me not to feel like this. Please help me not to feel like this. And all of a sudden it's gone. Now, I really believe in the smudging and the prayer and self-examination, begin to realize that I am the one who hurts myself more than anybody else. That's,
Yeah.
those are things I do.
Good, because that's you're actually doing the proper thing. One of the other things that will help you when you're doing your prayers is to ask Spirit to take the ownership, release the ownership of owning the emotion, because
Mhm.
that is the root, like I was saying. And when you're asking the Spirit for help, the Spirit really wants you to be direct. Because if you ask directly what you need, you're going to get it immediately. And if you ask, please take this ownership away off of my emotional plane, teach me how to, to let it go, then you're going to start letting go of ownership a lot quicker than other people. So hopefully that will help you. Has anybody else had an experience like that where they realized that when they were blaming other people that it was actually that finger was actually pointing back at them? Well, even if you haven't realized it yet, there's a lot of emotions when we go through them that actually point that finger back at ourselves. And the longer we stay in this class and talk about things, the more you'll become aware and be able to see it. And I feel I'm very thankful and feel very blessed and honored that y'all want to come to class and take the time to come to class every Tuesday, because I never know what we're going to talk about. I actually let Spirit lead us, in the things that we need. So for some reason it was the blame, talking about blame today. So there must be a lot of that going around right now in the universe. And we're probably all going to be having some type of lesson upon it during the next, this next week or so, or we wouldn't be talking about it. Because how many of y'all on each lesson that we've done experienced something after we had the lesson, and because we had the lesson, it helped you get through it quicker? Yeah. So that's probably what's going to be coming up, is some type of blaming. this week, and these classes are wonderful, and I really truly want and would like to see all of us, share our experiences together, because I believe as a group, that helps us grow, and it helps us learn how to communicate better with one another. And it also removes fear, because, we all have been programmed to be fearful of telling other people how we feel, because we're afraid they're going to make fun of us. They're going to hurt us because they have that ammunition, to turn it around on you. Well, when we first started these self-love classes, that was one of the things that I talked about, is we've got to bring all our skeletons out of the closet. If you bring all your skeletons out of the closet, it does not give anybody any ammunition to hurt you. And you also have to understand or reflect on this so that you can have greater understanding. If another person hurts you, was it because you own that emotion? Did you choose to own that emotion of hurt when it come up? Because they're the one that pushed that hurt at you. But you had a choice of going, well, that's how they feel about it, but I'm not going to feel about it. Or did you choose to own that emotion and feel the hurt? Because we do choose that. We have a choice on how we feel and accept things from one another. That's the hardest, especially when you have loved ones, because when your loved ones are hurting, okay, and they're going through a hard time, the very first thing that pops up in your emotional field is how they are feeling the hurt. And it makes you, and can make you feel guilty, that because you can't help them other than pray for them. But if you own that, boy, you have to walk right through that hurt with them until you let go of the ownership of it, because it's not your hurt. You can walk with them through it and not have to go through the emotional part of it with them. And when you can do that, that's when you're going through a lot of tests, and you're passing the test in flying colors, because you're able to pull them out of the tar without getting in it yourself. But see, I realized, and I think I said this last week, I fell in the tar really bad and stayed in it for a whole year before I realized I was even in the tar. But it's like I was telling you, the more you become aware of it, the less it will happen to you. And the more you'll be able to change your choices into positive choices, which will guide you into a better place of handling your emotional self. It's a very hard job. It's not easy. It's not easy because we live a human life, and especially when somebody that you love is going through hard times, you're going to be right there trying to help them get through it, and it can pull you into it. So you have to be aware, are you choosing to feel their hurt? Because you don't have to choose to feel that hurt. You can choose to be the strong person that is walking with them as they're hurting and helping them get out of that hurt. But it's really hard to do until when you first start recognizing it, it's very hard. But once you start, doing it, and you can realize that you can do that, then you've received another gift, within your authentic self of how you truly are. And it's kind of amazing when you can start really seeing your authentic self, and you can understand that nobody can take that away from you other than yourself. You can take it away from your own self by taking ownership of the wrong type of emotions that are when the energy is coming through. So what do y'all think about that? Do y'all have any questions on that?
Yes.
Okay, good morning.
Morning. I've been going through that myself. Someone very dear and close to me is throwing a lot of blame on me for their condition and saying that they have a serious health condition that they did to themselves. But I've been blamed for it, and I want to be there for them, but I don't know how to be there for them because I'm receiving a lot of anger and non-communication, and I feel like from someone else they're just giving, whispering in their ear all these things to keep them to have someone to be angry at, I guess. I don't know. And I don't know what role I actually played. I don't know that I contributed to it at all. I'm trying to understand this person's feelings, but they're not even talking to me right now. So it's hard to know where to be in that, where to stand in it.
And that's understandable. First off, are you blaming yourself for them not talking to you? Are you blaming yourself for any of it?
Not the health condition, but yes, I'm having a little pity party for, I'm hurt, I should say. I'm hurt that the person doesn't want to talk to me. And so, been with that emotion. And
Okay, so to help you look at it and try to remove that ownership off of the hurt that you've accepted to take because they're not talking to you. Okay, because that's actually connected you into becoming the victim. You're
And
not a victim.
started yesterday.
Yeah, you're not the victim, you're the victor. You walked away from that a long time ago, right?
Being the
And I want you to really think about this. You walked away from that problem a long, long time ago because you knew it was not a healthy situation. But you're still having, on the physical plane, you walked away, but now it's on the emotional plane that's being fixed. Okay. And so to keep yourself in a balance, in a better balance to break it, to continue breaking that pattern cycle, you have not got to do the victim part. It does hurt when they don't want to talk to you, but you have no control over that. That is their feelings. But if you take on their feelings because they don't want to talk to you, then it is going to hurt you because it's going to entrap you in that tar. And that's where they want you to be, really, because it's a way to manipulate you into getting you back to doing the way they want you to do for them. And if you get trapped in that, then what will happen is that whole cycle will start repeating again. But you've been working so hard to break that cycle, see. And also, if you go back in there, you can get stuck in that manipulation, and you're going to be there for a long, long time. So take the ownership out of it. Realize that is their emotion. There's nothing you can do at this point in time to change the way they feel. The only thing you can do is change the way you feel. And so do not take on the pain of it, because it's not your pain. You haven't done anything wrong. You're standing up for yourself, your authentic self that you're trying to become. And at this point in time, they don't like that because they want you back where you were at. But see, things are changing and sometimes people don't like change, but change is when you grow. So you need to see the gratitude that you're growing. Okay. And also know that this communication where they're not talking to you will only last for a short period of time because it's energy and energy always changes. And this takes a lot of people a long time, especially if it comes from your family. You know, if it's a family member and they don't want to talk to you, that can hurt you really bad because family's supposed to stick together. That's what we've always been taught. Families are supposed to stick together. Well, guess what? Sometimes families can keep you in the tar too, instead of allowing you to become your authentic self. So you too have to make a choice of what is good for you and are they healthy for you or are they going to make you sick? And you have to make that choice of being strong enough to know the difference and to walk away at the time. And I'm going to share this with you. I have a very toxic brother, but I love him very much. And when my mother passed away, and this was taken on her emotions, I felt guilty that I needed to take care of him because he was an alcoholic. He's a very bad alcoholic. And so I felt guilty that he was going to be all by himself, nobody there to help him, and that I just couldn't walk away from that. And I got really trapped in the tar. And I'll tell you, I got trapped in the tar really, really, really bad. And I put up with hours and hours of him talking drunk to me on the phone, where I couldn't even understand what he was saying, but felt like I had to be there because he didn't have nobody to talk to. Okay. But he never would, he never wanted to change. You know, when he was sober, he'd talk about, I need to stop drinking, I need to stop doing this. And he'd feed me, and I will tell you this, he fed me energy enough to keep me hanging on to that energy with a little hope that one day he would change. And I did this for years until my birthday this year. And this happened. For some reason, he has never wished me a happy birthday. And, you know, as a human being, we all, you know, on our birthdays, that's something special. We want people to wish us happy birthday, right? That's humanness. Okay. But he had never wished me happy birthday. So 2 days after my birthday, I decided to call him, and I finally decided to ask him how come he has never, ever, ever, ever wished me happy birthday. And so this was the response I got. Don't ever call me again. And he hung up the phone. Now he was drunk, you know, but that was the response. Don't ever call me again. And when he hung up the phone, my very first, you know, energy that hit me was, I was hurt, I was mad. But guess what? On the other side, since I didn't choose to own those emotions, I realized that I had been set free. I realized that because he told me never to call him again, I really didn't. It set me free from feeling guilty about him being alone. All of this stuff that I had carried with me since my mama had passed away, I don't carry none of that anymore. But also that was ownership. I had owned all those emotions. And so for you, Sherry, is what I'm trying to tell you is it does hurt when it's somebody in your family. But the only way they're going to grow is if you take the steps to grow first, because they're not deciding to grow. And guess what? One day they'll come to you, and it might be a year down the road. It could take 10 years down the road. But one day they'll come back and ask you how you did it, because they'll be ready to learn at that time. But you have to decide for yourself how you're going to handle it, or how are you going to choose to feel it. Are you going to blame yourself? Are you going to tell yourself you're unworthy, this is why this is happening? Or are you going to be your authentic self and say, I am love, I'm going to be strong, I'm not going to own how they feel, I'm not going to own that they don't want to talk to me, because that's their choice. I didn't choose that. My door's open to them anytime they want to call. And that's how I did my brother. And guess what? My brother called me yesterday. My birthday was in May. I hadn't talked to him in May, but he called me yesterday. He was drunk. We only talked for about 3 or 4 minutes. But this is what he says. I'm sorry I hadn't called to check on you, but I've been really busy. But I gotta go now. And he hung up the phone. You know, so stand in your truth and don't allow other people's feelings. Don't get caught up in those feelings because you love those people. Okay? You can still love them, but you do not have to be stuck in the tar with them. And it's going to be hard, but guess what? They'll come around. And if they have another person, like you said, whispering in their ear, that's a person manipulating them and their emotional feelings to get what they want. And when this person that's whispering in their ear doesn't see that you're coming and doing what they want, that part will stop. And then the other person will start probably communicating with you again. But what it is they see you getting strong and you're walking away from the situation, and they don't want you to do that. They want to keep you in the tar. And I want you to understand that the only person that can get, the only way we can get in the tar is if we put our own self in it. By choosing to own the emotion and the energy that's coming through to us from anybody else. Even our own thoughts can put us in the tar. So make it a positive thought so you don't have to be in that tar. Be the victor, not the victim. Break those patterns and cycles. And it's not easy. But Sherry, you're going to do it. You're good. You're going to do it. And will you cry? Yes. But also remember, when you're crying, there's 2 ways you can cry. You can cry for joy or you can cry for sadness. So when you're crying, if you find that you're crying because you're sad, try to switch that over to being joy. With joy that you are becoming your authentic self and you're seeing the truth. You know, and that everything's okay. They're still going to be there. They haven't went anywhere. But you're going to be stronger because you're releasing the emotions that have been trapped in your body for so long. Because crying is a way of releasing. Anybody else got anything? What
Thank
do
you.
you think about this, Dottie?
It's good stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it. I always thought that if my feelings got hurt, it was because they did it to me. And this is so cut and dried. I mean, this is black and white that, I chose to have my feelings hurt, or I chose to be sensitive, or I had not done my work in order for that not to hurt me. So I appreciate the how it's so clear, how you've made it so clear. And I'm glad to be with y'all again.
Yes, and see, I'm learning as I go too with this, y'all. I'm just like y'all. I'm not perfect. And I have my days where things hurt me really bad. We're human. We're gonna have that, I think, until the day we die. You know, but the awareness that we have the choice, that's what makes us that's what's so good about Creator. And that's the strength of Creator's light, is when we become in the awareness that we're choosing to feel this. So I'd like to choose to feel Creator's light every day, all the time, instead of feeling some suffering. But also remember, we live in duality. So this energy is going to change continuously into positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, because that's the way it works. And we have to be able to move in those energy vibrations that are coming through in the right set of thought processes to make it a lot easier for us to travel on that circuit. He didn't say it was going to be easy. It's never easy. But look, when you do start walking your path properly, and you're creating your thoughts, because you do create thoughts, when you start creating the beautiness and the peace that you want in your life, it's going to fall into place like dominoes once you start clearing out all of this stuck energy. And I call it stuck energy. That's the tar. Because you're gonna learn that to be more positive, whether it's bad or not. Have a smile on your face. You know, I realize that's the Dalai Lama is always smiling, and you know, if you really want to understand why he smiles, is because he knows this. He knows this exactly what we're talking about right now. That energy is always moving and changing. So if it's a bad moment, it's not going to last forever. That moment has to change. And what makes it change faster is if we don't take ownership of it and feel that emotion in a bad way. If we feel it in a positive way, that energy zips right on through. But if we feel it in a bad way, it gets clogged up in the tar. And guess what? We have to wade through the tar to get to the other side where it's flowing smoother again. So it's like a beaver. Take your dams down. Don't put no dams up there. You know, because a beaver will build a dam. And our emotions build those dams in our flow. So take those dams down. And that's my lesson for today. So I'd like to talk, you know, anybody want to talk about it? Hi, Leo.
Yeah, I have a couple of things I like to kind of share. One is, I went through a divorce, about 7 years ago, and I was going through a divorce, and this woman tried to use a drug gang to have me killed 6 times. And I finally got free from that, got away from that physically, but emotionally, I was still playing the victim. I kept going back to, well, woe was me. She did these things to me. And then, of course, about a week ago, I got talking with Shaha Win, and cut all those cords and let it go. And it's amazing the freedom that I feel after doing that. 95% of almost any problem is figuring out what the problem is. Once you figure out the problem, the solution usually isn't that hard to do. But anyway, so I just want to kind of share that. And one other thing is, when I was growing up, I used to wet my bed when I was a little boy. I got a spanking every morning from about age 1 to about age 6, and then after that, my dad took over with his belt. And we don't realize Spirit is with us all the time and helping us. And so finally one day I said to myself, Self, I'm just not going to let it hurt anymore. And that was amazing. What that does, if you get pain, it's just that part of your body that's sending a message to your brain. And it's how you deal with that. It's just a message is all it is. And you can take it in a negative way or just ignore it. And I know here about 5 years ago, for example, I spilled boiling water on my foot. And the top of my foot looked like pepperoni. I'm not exaggerating, like a big piece of pepperoni. And so I got kind of roped in. That thing was pretty well healed. And I got roped into going to the doctor about it. And the doctor took a look at it. Oh my gosh, you should go to a trauma center, burn center. And but after they took a closer look at it and stuff, they realized, well, it looks like it's healing okay. But they kept asking me about 6 times, what medication, what pain medicine have you been taking? They couldn't believe that I wasn't taking pain medication. Well, again, you can ignore, it's how you deal with it. And Spirit has helped me so much with that. And the good Lord is with us. We don't realize just over the years, He's with us all the time and helping us and showing us the way. So I just want to share those stories with you.
Well, I think that was pretty good, but from age 1, like I was saying, at the start, when you learn from the age 1 to 7, those are actually when your patterns and your cycles are really embedded into you that you have to work through. And for you were taught at that age to not take ownership of pain. You just told yourself, I'm not going to let pain bother me. So what you actually did is you removed the ownership off of it. And that actually is how some people can, there's those people that walk on the hot coals and their feet don't ever get burnt. That's part of it, because your mind is a very powerful thing. And that's what people don't understand. Your mind is very powerful. And so they're in a meditation state when they're walking across these hot coals, where they actually visualize walking across the coals, and they're cold and there's no burning of their feet, no blisters on their feet. So when they get across the coals, guess what? There's no blisters on their feet or anything. So that it does prove that your mind is a very powerful source, that can create anything. And we know that because we talked about be careful, what you ask for, be careful what your thoughts are, because every time you think something, you're going to create it out here in the universe. And the universe doesn't know, doesn't run off of emotional feelings. It just gives you what you ask for. Okay, so if you're going, oh, I'm sick, guess what? You're going to be sick. And so you want to, when you start saying negative stuff out of your mouth, you just want to cancel it. So I cancel that. I want this positive thing to happen. And it might take a while before you start seeing the positive happen, depending on how much negative stuff you have put out there to the universe. But guess what? The universe is going to give you what you ask for. you're gonna get it. So, so just know that when you want something, you make sure it's the right thing you want. You know, there's so many women, okay, that are out there saying, oh, I would love to be in a relationship. Please send me a man that'll be good. Well, they forget to leave out good. You know, they just say, please send me a man. So they get a man, but they might get an alcoholic, somebody that beats them up. You know, you have to be, you know, put out what you want. And guess what? It will come to you. And Sherry, that can help you too with your problem with your kids and stuff, is when you do your prayers at night, ask for those types of prayers for your children to come in balance with you, for communication skills, for trusting you, for, you know, it will come about. Anybody else have anything to say? Rodney, you got,
Yes.
okay, Susan.
Oh, did I interrupt somebody?
No,
Oh, okay. You know, I had a question early on and I forgot to write it down because I was busy writing notes. But we talked about some things that you know, you talk about not taking ownership of it, of what another person thinks or does. Like, I have a hard time with my husband. Like yesterday, I've had all kinds of like breathing problems and asthma, and I was really bad. And I had to go to the emergency room, you know. Well, he's the kind, I mean, he won't take me. He won't, you know, you'll have to find another ride. You know, I worked all day, this and that. So my sister-in-law came and got me and brought me and everything. And, you know, I was supposed to go out and get to the grocery store. I had a list of crap to do, and I was supposed to pick him up tobacco. Well, I forgot the tobacco. And I tell you, he was pissed, you know. It just didn't matter that, you know, I was huffing and puffing and you know, couldn't breathe, and he was all shitty and all this and that. And you know, I just like, my God, you know, some people just want the freaking moon. You know what I mean? Here I am standing here, I can't even breathe. And I'm, you know, and it's like, but when you talk about not taking ownership of that, like his behavior and everything else, you know, like, don't let it hurt my feelings or anything. But you know, he's still an ass.
yeah.
You know, like, yeah, I mean, I get confused sometimes when you say don't own it, you know, but I have to face who he is and
Correct.
accept who he is and either dig it or hit the road.
That's
You know,
exactly.
because I mean, there's been several times there's just like no compassion. I mean, no, nothing, you know, and I mean, just zero, you know. And at first I was like, well, you know, what did I do? I mean, we're supposed to be married here, you know. And no, he just, yeah. I don't know any better. You did bring up something about how our development, our self-esteem through ages 1 through 7, the most significant time in our lives. And if we don't get any of that stuff that we need because of abuse and trauma and all this other kind of baggage, where in the hell are we supposed to get it? You know, I mean, I've
Okay,
been to all kinds of shrinks and stuff like that, and they don't have any of this shit. Okay.
okay, I can kind of answer that for you. Because you're an adult now and that you recognize that's what you need, you have to give it back to your inner child. Only you can give it to, nobody else can give it to your inner child except for you. And it's a lot of hard work. I was like that because I was abused very, very bad when I was a kid. So it's really hard to give it back to yourself, but that's where you have to rebuild your own self-esteem, and the only person that can do that is you. Going to psychiatrists, going to doctors, doing exercise, all of that, that's not going to help you until you have a sit down with your little one inside yourself. And the way I did it, now I don't know if it would work for you, but the way I did it is I took a mirror and I looked at myself in the mirror, and then through the mirror, I looked at my eyes so that I could see my inner child. And I said, I see you in there, and I see that you're still hurt, and I want to give you a hug. And so that's how I started. I started hugging myself. I probably looked, if anybody had been around it, I'd have probably looked funny because I had myself all wrapped up in a hug. But I had a long talk with my inner child, and I told my child that I would never allow anybody to hurt them ever again, and that it was my responsibility now, because I was grown up, not to allow somebody to hurt them because I could protect them. When I was a child, I couldn't protect them because I was a child then too. Now, because you're married to somebody that is the way he is, you to help you, you need to go back and list how many times did you spit out of your mouth that he was selfish, that he was being mean to you, that he was doing all this stuff to you. Because remember what I just said, if you put it out in the universe, that's what you're going to get back. So to help calm it down and rebalance it out some, you might want to try giving him saying, thank you, Creator, for showing me his authentic self. Could you please help me, and send him some blessings so that he can learn to change and become more, giving. It's not going to change overnight because he's been doing this his whole life, but you can change by not allowing it to affect you, because yes, that's the way he is, and he might not never change, but you can change because you can choose not to allow it to affect you and hurt you anymore. But on the days that you are not breathing good, like his tobacco, him wanting to, that's when you have to set up boundaries with your inner child first and yourself, that you're not going to cross those boundaries for him, anything that would hurt you physically because you're not breathing good enough. On those days, you'll have to tell him, I'm sorry, I couldn't do it for you today because I could not breathe. You're going to have to do that for yourself, and stand in that strength of yourself. All he's going to do is get mad, and he might cuss you out and everything, but if he's still going to get up and go to the store and get his tobacco, isn't he? Because that's what he did, right? He got in his car and went and got his tobacco, but he was mad. Okay, so it's where you choose to take on his feelings. You don't have to take on his feelings anymore. But work on yourself, work on healing your inner child, and then ask universe to make him be more loving towards you. You know, because it doesn't mean you have to walk away from that situation, but it takes a strong person, you know, to stay in a situation like that when you know how that person is, especially if that person is selfish and it's nothing about but his own self. But you can set good boundaries down. Like I said, you could tell him, look, I wasn't feeling good. You're going to have to go get that stuff for yourself today. All he's going to do is get mad at you. And, but he can get glad in the same pants he got mad in, right? But the more you set those boundaries, the more he's going to take notice, hey, something's happening here. And that might be how you, actually start talking where he can actually start changing. But you'll have to be able to tell him the truth of how you feel about things. You know, but for you to be able to do that is you got to heal that inner child of yourself first. If not, you're going to run and hide. You know, does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. I had done some inner child work and stuff like that. And, but I hadn't done the exercise that you just, you know,
You need to actually
talked
really
about.
see your,
Yeah.
you need to actually really see your inner child. And the only
Yeah.
way you can do that is to look in a mirror. And from the mirror, look into your eyes and you'll see that small child. And mine, when I did it, was actually crouched down on the floor, holding my knees and everything because I was a scared little kid inside me. But I'm not that scared little kid anymore. Because I know my fleshly body has that child's back. And I'm not gonna allow nobody to hurt her anymore. And
Yeah,
you know,
that action is action makes a difference. I'd use affirmations, but that's just kind of talking in your head.
yeah.
Action changes it up a little bit.
Yeah,
It never occurred to me to hug myself.
Yeah, that's the 3 Threes. See, thoughts, action, reaction. So yes, because you can talk to your inner child, but you also have to touch yourself because your inner child's inside here. So that there's an action going along with it, so the energy can move into your inner child.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, I look forward to hearing how this works out for you because it took me a long time. I mean, I worked on myself for a long time, but I had some very good moments that I like to share with some of my friends as I was learning about my inner child. And I set some really strong boundaries, that I will not allow anybody to cross for my inner child. And you'll be doing that too.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And y'all, it's time for class to be over with, so I hope y'all enjoyed it today. And I'm gonna let Rodney say the closing prayer. If you did everybody get everybody's phone number? I know the only person that didn't get everybody's phone number was Dottie. So I'll pass that to Dottie later. But that's what when y'all need somebody to talk to, that's the tree line. Call one of us. Well, you need somebody to talk to, this is our support group. And I love each and every one of y'all, and I hope y'all have a very blessed day today and a lovely weekend. And Rodney, take us out with a prayer.
Thank you, Shahawen. It was so good. All right, I'll pray. Father Sky, Mother Earth, all our ancestors, all our relatives. We thank you so very much for the circle that you've allowed us to be part of and the lessons and wisdom that you're sharing through our beautiful sister Shahawin. We thank you for the teachings about how the emotions will come and we just need to let them pass. We don't need to take ownership of those negative emotions. The choice is always ours. Help us to embrace the light and the good in all things and let those negative emotions just drift away like a cloud in the sky. They're there, but we don't have to take ownership of them. Help us to walk this week in a way pleasing in your sight. Fill us with your spirit. Guide us in a good way. Protect us in every way. We love you so much. We thank you for the circle, though we ask that you close the circle now and bless this week. We love you. Thank you. Aho.
Bye. We'll see everybody next week.